Hey, good morning. This is Jerry Davis. I'm here with Elite Series Pro Brandon Card. We're at Rock Outdoors. We're going to take a few minutes to talk about the great opportunities for fall fishing. Doesn't get any better. I turned it over to Brandon. He just had a great trip here about a week or two ago on High Rock, and I'm going to let him tell you about his day.
Yeah, just went out for a few hours. Had recently gotten back from a Chickamauga event, and just wanted to see, if they're biting on High Rock. Right off the bat, caught several really nice fish on the Advantage Bait Top Chop Buzz Bait. Man, I love fishing top water in the fall when they come up and just explode on that bait. It's so much fun. Then the sun popped out, and I transitioned to a dock bite, caught really nice fish on a vibrating jig. So it was definitely happening that day. I went out this week, so I guess it was a few days after that trip. The water had come up, and the bite had just turned off. I caught one little fish, and I think I fished for 4 hours. It was tough.
It's pretty funny because the week before he kept sending me these pictures, and he was teasing me a little bit because I was working. He's out there just killing one big one after another, so he knew it was tearing me up. He goes back last week. The water come up about a foot and a half in about 2 days. Same thing. He calls me about 10 o'clock. He's in a panic. What happened? Where'd they go? And I said, well, welcome to High Rock, Brandon.
Yeah.
This lake fluctuates a huge amount. And for some reason in the fall, they don't seem to react quite as quick. You would think the water come up a foot and a half. You think you go find every bush you can find, they'd be in it. That may be 3 or 4 days down the road, but usually the next day, no. And customarily, they'll be on the end of docks when the water's low. When the water shoots up, they'll go to those first 2 or 3 poles or the seawall, or if there's a boat ramp close to the pier, those are the places that you'll find them real shallow. But it still takes a little time for that to happen. In spring now, when you got a spawn situation, I've noticed the water come up, they'll go in those bushes pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think you saw that this week, though. It took a day or two, and you just couldn't really find them that day.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know how much High Rock fluctuated until I moved here. I've been keeping my eye on the water levels, and it's just up and down like crazy. The lakes that I grew up on in East Tennessee, they fluctuate a lot, but it's just like gradually going down or gradually coming up. Here, it's just up, down, all over the place. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a learning experience just trying to crack the code over here, on High Rock, and just trying to get a feel for the fluctuating water and stuff like that.
Now, about 2 weeks ago, Steve, our owner here, him and I don't get out of here on the same day very often, and we love to fish together, but it's just hard. So we was able to work out a day where we went to Kerr Lake up in Virginia. Neither one of us had been up there for probably a year. We just started out really looking for bait, go to the major creeks and start looking on the flats, and that's where historically that bait will show up. And we found a couple of areas, and we found this one area where we started. Steve had a great tournament up there last fall in that same area. I think it was an ABA, and he found some nice fish. Went in there, and sure enough, first thing in the morning, we found some of those fish still shallow up on some of the corners, rocky places. And Steve caught one about 6 pounds. I caught a real pretty fish. Sun come out. Got a little later in the day, things got tough. Well, not very far from there, back on the flat, there's an old channel, and I knew there was an old house foundation there that I had fished years ago. Actually found that, I don't know, in the 70s, Woo days, and I used to go up there and walk around and collect airheads in the drawdown period. Found this old house foundation. So I go back there and make 3 drops with a football jig, catch 3 fish, 3.5 to 4 pounds. Each one, when I brought them to the top, it was really clear, and there was 2 or 3 with them trying to take the jig out of their mouth. And that's how fast it can happen. It was just a big school of fish out there, and you could see them on your sonar, We ended up with about an 18-pound bag, which in the fall, neither one of us being up there in a year, I was really tickled. And of course, we bragged on ourselves all the way back down the road.
Yeah, that's a really good bag in the fall of the year.
Fall can just be so exciting. You find that bait. Now, you go in a creek and find bait. They may not be there the first day or two, but if that bait stays back there, I promise you, within a week, there'll be some fish there. They may not be out there chasing them around, breaking on top of water like you think. But if there's any cover close to that bait, you fish that cover you after, you will find the fish.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience on Gunnersville. We just got back from back-to-back elite events. Gunnersville was our first one. We went to Santee Cooper and then back to Chickamauga. Gunnersville was a fun event because I found some deep fish, kind of like what y'all found. I had some shallow fish going too. So the first day, everything went to plan. Caught a really nice limit right out of the gates. The fish were biting. Then I went shallowing, upgraded throughout the day, shallow. Everything was good on day number 1. Day number 2, I had 2 little fish at 12. My primary area was just donezo. I don't know where they went. They vacated the premises. My shallow fish just would not cooperate. And so I was running up the lake. I was going to go target some shallow fish that I had up the river on a buzzbait. And I was down the lake. I was down there close to Town Creek. And I was driving by Town Creek, and something told me to go in there and check a little flat that I had marked a few fish on in practice. And so I ran over there real quick, idled over that flat right where it dropped. It was about 14 foot of water, and it fell off into the creek channel. And those fish that I saw in practice, they were scattered all over the place. They were stacked in this one little area. I knew right then and there that it was going to happen. So I spun the boat around, threw my crankbait in there. First cast caught one. 2 or 3 casts later, caught a 6-pounder, which was a huge bass for that event. I mean, it was tough fishing. So a couple casts after that, I lost a 4-pounder, then caught a 3-pounder, and I was culling everything. It was mayhem. It was one cast after another. And I stood back up and fired over there. I was reeling my crankbait, and it fouled up. And I was like, what in the world? And so I brought my crankbait up, and it was all fouled up with eelgrass. And so I started to look around, and all this eelgrass that was floating on the surface had blown in on my area where I was catching those offshore fish. Literally, it was like probably about an acre of eelgrass that had just blown in on that area. I couldn't make my cast. The fish were fired up, they were feeding, and it just felt like somebody had put me in timeout, and I couldn't fish. And so I kept trying to think of some different baits that I could throw in there and fish without, getting it fouled up with the eelgrass. And every single bait I threw in there, even trying to drag a worm, there was so much, the eelgrass would get caught on the line and it would just go down to the worm. So that was a crazy experience. I've never, had an offshore school of fish fired up and you couldn't keep catching them. So that was a weird deal. I'm glad that I got there when I did. Because if I would have got there, 30, 40 minutes later, I never would have caught any there because I wouldn't have been able to make a cast. So, still, finished the event with a, pretty high finish on that deal. But man, I would have loved to just fish that spot for, 20, 30 more minutes.
Another hour.
Yeah, another hour. I mean,
fishing the last day.
Yeah.
Guys, it shows, when I go fishing and I have something like that happen, it's not disastrous. Brandon's a professional. He's fishing for a living. So it shows that versatility has to be there. Keep looking, and he did. He was able to work that deep bite in with a shallow bite, and that shallow a good finish.
Yeah,
very important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just trying to always have a backup pattern. Day number 2, like I said, the wheels were kind of falling off, but I still had a few options. Okay, I could go check this, or I could go up that river, and just having those, plan. B, C, maybe even plan D sometimes. That's what it takes. Just, being able to, if one thing's not working, just scrap it and, go to the next deal.
For the weekend angler, plan C might be get on the trailer and come home. You don't have that option.
Go watch a football game.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to us a little bit about some of the baits you'd be using, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, like the fall time of year, for me, it's all about moving baits. I want to stay moving. It's hard for me to slow down this time of year. So I'm going to be throwing, topwater baits like this Yozuri walking bait here. I'm going to be cranking, throwing lipless. A rattling bob is a great bait. I mentioned buzz bait earlier. Stuff that you can, cover a lot of water with, and, baits that imitate bait fish, shad, threadfin, gizzard shad, because that's what they're feeding on this time of year. You don't have to slow down much this time of year.
We firsthand saw this on TV out there in Oklahoma, I think it was.
Yeah, Texoma.
Yeah, we saw that big time. I mean, you really caught them on that thing. You give me one, and I've had some good luck with it too. It's one of the easiest walking baits up through.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite bait for sure. But, this is going to be kind of our first installment of this. Our next one, we're going to go live with you guys. We're going to do a Facebook Live so y'all can send us questions. you can, pick Jerry's brain about, what's going on High Rock or any of these surrounding lakes. You can ask me any questions about any of the events or, anything that's, happened. So that's what we're going to do next time. Stay tuned. It's
Come
going to
on
be a
in
lot
and
of fun.
see us here at Rocky Outdoors. Inventories have been a little scratchy, whether it's a big box store or your local tackle store. We've been very fortunate here in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've been able to get everything restocked, all kinds of crankbaits that you need, spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, worms. So come see us and get stocked up. Go down and have a great day on High Rock and fall fishing.